If you look at the overall lineup now, largely people are in portfolios that they weren't in when we were last in government, and that's a deliberate move. We're not asking for people to re-elect the last government that we were in 2023. We lost that. We're refreshing, we're renewing. So our lineup in 2026 needs to look different to what we went into the 23 election with.
Is this the lineup that you will go into the 2026 election with?
I think, a year and a half, there's bound to be a few tweaks here and there, but yeah, I've largely got people where I want them to be heading into the next election campaign.
You told the Auckland Business Chamber, where this speech was announced, that, quote, we aren't going to spend our first year back in government pausing, cancelling and reviewing everything. So, surprise us. Which of the current government's policies are you going to hang on to?
I think there's a bit of a difference between rhetoric and reality sometimes, but if you look at what they're saying on infrastructure, we need a more stable infrastructure pipeline where we can actually just get ahead and build things, and the priorities don't always change every time there's a change of government. I actually agree with that approach. I think them coming in and cancelling, pausing, things like school rebuilds, hospital rebuilds, even some of the transport projects we had underway, that was hugely damaging for our overall economy. There's 13,000 fewer people working in building and construction today than there were on election day, and the government dialing back work in that area is one of the reasons for that. I don't think the country can afford to keep doing that. So I've said that, look, if they've got work underway, even if it's not necessarily stuff I would have put at the top of the list, if it's already underway, we'll keep it going, because I don't think the country can afford the stop-start mentality when it comes to things like infrastructure. So I actually do agree with what the government are saying in that area. Unfortunately, their actions don't match that, but if they follow through, then so will we.
Let's talk about the economy. Will you campaign on a capital gains tax?
We'll campaign on tax reform, and what you heard me say today, now the exact nature of that, it's not just a simple issue of this one tax or that one tax. I think the issue that we're trying to address here is we've got to rejig the tax system so that the burden of taxation is more evenly spread, bearing in mind is, we've all got a responsibility to contribute to the prosperity and well-being of the country. And at the moment, the tax system does reward speculative investment, things like going and buying rental properties, more and encourage more of that than investing in productive businesses that create jobs. And that does need to change today. Whatever you decide on tax has to fit within a broader economic plan that includes where that money goes. If you're raising new tax revenue, where does it go? Does it go to offsetting, i.e. reducing taxes in other areas, or does it go to new spending? And those are pretty fundamental questions. And the structure of our tax system, if you look around the world, New Zealand's quite unique in the sense that the vast bulk of the government's tax revenue comes from income tax or GST.
And is that fair?
And
is it fair?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
But, you get the direction of travel. We do want to see that speculative investment, speculative decisions that are paying their fair share of tax. The people making their money off that activity are paying their fair share of tax. But in other areas, we actually want to encourage more of certain things. We want to encourage more savings. We want to encourage more investment in businesses and in productive enterprise that actually creates jobs for Kiwis. Okay. Yes, I think New Zealand should continue to stand up for New Zealand's values. And a lot of what Donald Trump is promoting are the total opposite of the things that New Zealanders care about. If you want an open economy, if you want, a trusting democracy, if you want an inclusive community, these are things that are important to New Zealanders, and many of the things Donald Trump's doing are going against those.
Is straight talking important to New Zealanders?
Yes, I think it is, yeah.
Do you trust Donald Trump?
Look, I've said that I'm avoiding that question. I still have a responsibility to be a little diplomatic.
Do you see the irony in your last two answers?
Yeah, but I still have a responsibility to be a bit diplomatic.
You've got a guy in the White House who's completely happy to speak his mind, and people are responding to that, resonating to that. They want, as you've just told me, they want straight talking from their politicians.
Yeah, I don't think insults are going to be the answer to that.
I didn't ask for an insult. I asked whether you trust.
Well, when you start saying that you don't trust someone, you're kind of getting into personal territory. I think New Zealand.
Well, you're quite happy to say that about a lot of New Zealand politicians.
I think New Zealand. Well, they're my opponents, and ultimately, I don't have to work closely with them in the way that we'd have to work with whomever the United States chooses to elect. But New Zealand's independent foreign policy means we shouldn't be afraid on issues rather than personalities. We shouldn't be afraid to disagree, including with our friends.
Is your preference for a Labour, Green, Te Pāti Māori government?
My preference is to get as many votes for Labour as I possibly can. And let's be clear, it's MMP. The stronger the biggest party in government is, then obviously the less you have to give away in negotiations. So I want to get as big a support for Labor as I possibly can. Is coalition or support party arrangements, are they a reality under MMP? Yes, of course they are.
Sure.
Could we work with the Greens? Yes. Can we work with Te Pāti Māori? Yes, we can.
Is that your preference, those two parties?
I'll set out my position on that close to the election. Partly that's going to depend on what kind of things they decide to prioritise in their election campaign. So it will make a difference. Well, I mean, I think if you look at something like Foreign Affairs, Winston Peters is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I think it's in the country's best interest for us to try and have a cooperative working relationship with him in that area. So in areas like the Pacific, for example, we've got a very strong team of Pacific MPs. He's involved them in the work that he's doing around the Pacific. I welcome that, and I've indicated to him we want to continue with that cooperation. Whether that means that we would then suddenly turn around and say we're going into a government, I think people are drawing a very long bow if they leap to that conclusion.
And you're not going to work with them then, are you?
Look, I've said that I'll set that out closer to the election, and it will be based on what kind of pitch other parties take into the election campaign.